Breaking right here on KGW, new devastation in Southern California.
It doesn't even look like a house anymore.
As some watch years of memories go up in flames, others are still trying to escape as a new fire threatens Hollywood. Plus,
it's heartbreaking to hear the personal stories of the people here.
How local groups, including hundreds of firefighters, are now mobilizing to slow the spread and help those who've lost so much. Also new tonight, mounting political pressure for Providence and union workers to reach a deal and avoid a historic strike. And later,
but if I could move out, I would, unfortunately.
As another Portland business owner, discouraged by senseless crime, calls on city leaders to do more. We begin once again tonight with more breaking news in Southern California, where multiple wildfires continue to strain resources. This is a live look at the flames in the Altadena area, where the Eaton fire is still burning more than 24 hours after it first sparked. This fire alone has killed at least 5 people, and because of embers carried by the winds, burned hundreds of homes. It is the second largest fire in the area right now, with the bulk of resources fighting it and the massive blaze in Pacific Palisades. Several new fires have sparked around the Southland this evening. The most recent was in Studio City on the valley side of the Hollywood Hills, where at least one home burned. You see it there. Thankfully, that fire has been knocked down. Still burning, though, on the Hollywood side of the hills is the Sunset Fire. This is in the Runyon Canyon area, very close to Hollywood Boulevard. At last check, it had spread to about 50 acres and sparked thousands of new evacuations. Though we have some good news, relatively speaking, because winds were calmer tonight. Crews have been able to fight this one from the air and say they are finally getting a handle on it. Some of the worst damage we've seen, by the way, from the Palisades fire that's along the coast between Santa Monica and Malibu. It has charred nearly 16,000 acres, destroyed more than 1,000 structures and counting. Celebrities like Billy Crystal and Paris Hilton say their homes are among those lost. Another homeowner got out as he saw the flames rushing toward his home. He returned today to find nothing.
We lost everything we owned, but it doesn't even look like a house anymore. It just looks like something.
California's governor says more than 7,500 firefighters are working to battle the fires tonight. Let's get right to live team coverage now. Catherine Cook tracking local efforts to help wildfire victims, including fire crews on the move now. But first, to Chief Meteorologist Matt Sfino. Matt, it sounds like those Santa Ana winds are finally letting up.
They have let up, David, which is great, but they haven't completely ended, and they're going to come back as we go into tomorrow, too. It won't be as brutal as it was yesterday, but still, it may be not 90-mile-an-hour winds, but 40-mile-an-hour winds, 50-mile-an-hour winds is still bad enough. Right, here are the winds right now. Really good news across most of the reporting areas here. Even up in the mountains, the winds have calmed down. I saw a report, a place called Caleo, which had winds of 44 miles an hour still. That's up in the mountains, the San Gabriel Mountains. Here's the forecast. You can see where the color is. That's where the winds are strongest, 30, 40 miles an hour. And it's mainly confined to those areas up in the mountains. Down along the coast, the winds will be much lighter. A little bit of onshore flow to bring the humidity up. That would help as well. But again, as we go into tomorrow evening, those winds pick up in the mountains yet again. So we'll be watching that very, very carefully. The smoke extending hundreds of miles offshore, as you can see from the satellite imagery. Now, let's talk a little bit of rainfall in LA. In the last 9 months, 15 hundredths of an inch, 12 of those hundredths of an inch came in the month of May, which means over the last 8 months, there's virtually been no rain. But before that, the first part of 2024, they got inundated. That led to a big bloom of brush and growth and undergrowth, and that has all since dried out and led fuel to the fire. The average annual rainfall in LA is about a foot. So again, brutal conditions there. Checking the airports in Southern California right now, they're all reporting no delays. David?
Good news, and good news to hear about the winds as well. Thank you, Matt. Let's talk about local efforts to help, because tonight 300 firefighters from Oregon are headed to Southern California. Crews from Washington and Multnomah counties left earlier today. In all, the state fire marshal is sending in 15 strike teams and 75 fire engines. A lieutenant with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue says the crews are expecting to deal with extreme winds and dry conditions.
So we're going to be challenged with some light flashy fuels, winds that we don't see up here too often, right? Sustained winds at 100 miles an hour in some areas down there. So it is going to be pretty treacherous conditions for us.
I personally need out of cash.
All right, crews will be in the Southern California area for a minimum of 2 weeks and could stay longer. I want to bring in Catherine Cook now. Catherine, I personally have friends who have lost their home or watching other ones burn in Southern California tonight. It just gives you a sense of the aid and the help, the need for that's only growing right now.
That's right, David. It is heartbreaking to see people in crisis. I'm so sorry about your friends. And there is definitely a feeling of helplessness right now. Locally, at least 2 organizations are raising money for fire victims, a chance to make a difference without leaving home.
It's heartbreaking to hear the personal stories of the people here.
From LAX, Portlander Mark Blattner thinks back on the last couple days. He and others from the Jewish Federation of Greater Portland touched down in LA Tuesday morning for a conference.
The concerns started to mount as the winds continued to pick up and the fire started to spread.
In a matter of hours, fire had decimated entire communities. Blattner watched as evacuees poured into their hotel with their pets, few belongings, and so much uncertainty.
You're hearing people at the conference whose personal lives were impacted, whether it was their own house or a family member's house that may have burned down. At the same time, everybody's concerned about their relatives. And you could just feel the unease everywhere you go here in Los Angeles.
By Wednesday, Blattner says the Jewish Federation of Greater Portland launched a fundraising effort to help those impacted by the fires. They did the same for victims of Oregon's wildfires in 2020, the Maui wildfires in Hawaii, and victims of Hurricane Helene in North Carolina.
We just feel it's our obligation to help people wherever they are when these kind of situations take place.
Not unlike the American Red Cross. Right now, they're overseeing more than 1,200 evacuees in shelters around LA. Closer to home, volunteers from the Red Cross Cascades region are packing their bags.
We have volunteers on standby right now to be ready to go at a moment's notice. We anticipate we will be sending people down there probably sooner rather than later because this is not diminishing. This is a growing, evolving disaster.
Rebecca Marshall with the Red Cross Cascades region says right now cash donations are critical. She says they'll make the biggest, most immediate impact on those in crisis. Back at LAX, Blattner prepares to board a plane back to Portland, grateful for so much.
We're grateful for people in Portland and elsewhere for their support and what they do to help others.
And we're grateful for them stepping up and ready to go. So how can we all help, Catherine?
We've posted links to both of those fundraisers on KGW.com, and we'll also update that web story as more resources come in. We hope it helps.
Yeah, this is going to evolve over days, weeks, perhaps months. Yeah. Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate it. KGW will continue to monitor the very latest on the Southern California wildfire disaster, both on air and streaming. Be sure to download the KGW Plus app on your smart TV for updates 24/7. To get you caught up now on tonight's other headlines, prosecutors in St. Helens are laying out decades of alleged sexual abuse to try to convince a judge on Friday to keep a high school teacher in jail. Eric Stearns was rearrested this weekend and now faces 18 charges. In a new court filing, the DA says Stearns was accused of forced sexual contact as far back as 2001. 2 adults have also accused him of sex assault in recent years. Prosecutors claim Stearns resigned from his prior school district following complaints of sexualized conduct. In Southeast Portland, police are looking for the suspects in a shooting that left 2 teenage boys injured. This was around 8:30 last night along Southeast 117th near Mill Park Elementary. Authorities say 2 groups of people met to, quote, settle an issue, and shots were fired. The 2 teenagers were taken to the hospital and are expected to be okay. And a Portland man is under arrest facing child luring and sexual corruption charges. Detectives say 33-year-old Joseph Lyons started talking to an undercover detective posing as a child during a predator sting last spring. They could not find him at the time, but he was indicted in November and then arrested on Friday. Washington County detectives say Lyons admitted to meeting multiple children he'd had contact with online or asking anyone with information to please come forward. New tonight, we are less than 36 hours out from what could be a historic healthcare strike, including the first for doctors in Oregon, with elected leaders now weighing in, pushing for both sides to make a deal in order to avoid that walkout. Alma McCarty is tracking the pressure that only appears to be mounting. Alma?
Well, David, over the last several days, as you know, there's been a lot of back and forth between ONA and Providence. There were no mediation sessions this evening and nothing scheduled as of right now for tomorrow, though Providence says they continue to email proposals and ideas back and forth. 5,000 healthcare workers, including doctors and nurses at 14 Providence facilities, plan to walk out at 6 a.m. on Friday.
Providence patients are bracing for the largest ever strike of nurses and healthcare workers in Oregon's history. Also the state's very first to include doctors.
Providence could end this strike tomorrow by coming back to the bargaining table with our nearly 5,000 frontline caregivers and negotiating a fair contract, but they've refused to do that.
A Friday morning walkout over staffing levels, wage increases, and working conditions would affect more than a dozen hospitals and clinics throughout the state.
We're hopeful that we'll be able to come to an agreement because that's what's best for the community.
With Providence and the union at a stalemate, lawmakers have weighed in, encouraging both sides to reach a deal, and soon. In a letter provided by the Oregon Nurses Association to the Providence executive team, both the Oregon House Speaker and the Senate President wrote that such a disruption coming as a last resort to frontline workers who have been bargaining in good faith would have negative consequences for patients, caregivers, and Oregonians as a whole. They go on to urge the hospital system to re-engage in the bargaining process in good faith. On the federal level, Senators Ron Wyden and Jeff Merkley encouraged both sides to bargain in good faith. Senator Merkley said Oregon Nurses Association healthcare workers at Providence do life-saving work for our community and need safe staffing levels to provide quality care for patients. Providence told KGW Wednesday they've, quote, had productive conversations with a number of senior elected leaders and state officials. It is clear we share the same goals, ensuring Providence ministries can continue serving our communities and finding a quick resolution to these strikes.
Providence says all patients who have appointments or procedures delayed at the women's clinics or hospitals will be notified by phone a day or two before the appointment. Most routine appointments and outpatient surgeries, however, will be canceled. If you have questions, you're encouraged to call the individual clinic or hospital. David?
Yeah, counting down to Friday morning at 6 a.m.